It's the Sal and Rich Show. Today's guest is author Tom Fargnoli. This is Tom's third time on the show. Today, Tom is discussing his new book titled The Stream, Keys to Peace, a very fascinating read. The book is available from your favorite bookstore. Sal and Rich start the show.
Welcome again, Tom.
Well, it's good to be here. Thank you. I feel very privileged and very honored to be on the Sal and Rich Show because normally you guys pick out the cream of the crop from Paul Six. Now, me, I'm a Sterling High School guy, and yet you find a way to get me on. In fact, for that matter, I think you should advertise your show. In fact, I'll post it on my Sterling website because a lot of Sterling graduates marry Paul Six graduates, right?
Yeah, isn't that funny?
Yeah, yeah.
I think there's a Lady of Grace connection there too.
Yeah, you got the Lady
Yeah.
of Grace. Yeah.
Yep. So but if you could do that, that would be great. Yeah, and so this is your third time, all tied to your books, and we're happy to have you back. We're going to discuss The Stream, which is your latest book, and Rich and
Wait a minute. I thought we had Ernest Hemingway, no?
He's gone, Rich. He's been
He's
gone
gone?
a long time. Yeah.
Oh, see, my memory is gone. Okay.
He's
No,
a little
that's-
more popular. He's a
Well,
little more popular.
Actually, Hemingway had a book called Islands in the Stream. That was his last book that he wrote, because I was a big Hemingway fan. I read all of his books. So not that far off, Rich. You were pretty close.
And somebody sang the song, right? Islands in the Stream?
Yeah, exactly. I think that was Dolly Parton.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Dolly Parton. So anyway, Tom, thank you. Welcome back, and good to have you live from Naples, Florida, where you spent half the year. Is that what you were telling us earlier?
Yes, and we got very cold this year. We dipped all the way down into the 40s. I mean, I didn't know whether to wear. Yeah, I didn't know whether to get the parkas out.
We get the violin out for you.
In the 40s. It's going to be 40 here today.
It hasn't been that bad in Charlotte.
Plus 9 degrees here, so I guess it's all relative. My son's coming down this weekend, so he's leaving the cold weather in New Jersey, and his boys are dying to get back to golf. They love golf, and so they haven't swung a club for a while in the snow. So the problem down here is getting a tee time for them. But,
Yeah. Well, I haven't picked up a club since right after Thanksgiving, so it turned cold, and I don't like playing in the cold. So hopefully, actually, I'm supposed to be playing tomorrow, so we'll see. Anyway, let's get to your book. Yeah, you're doing the violin thing. Tell us about The Stream. What you describe as the central message of the book, Tom.
Yeah, I mean, I think about the writing, even though I've gotten like almost 4 books now, but I don't consider myself a writer really. I like to tell stories, so that's kind of what has happened with me over the years. After being retiring and after being a deacon and looking back, I mean, I told stories in so many things that I've done. Whether when it was a diaconate using scripture, as a magician, always telling stories and trying to come up with the right story for the right trick. And even in teaching in Lockheed Martin, I always drove the main issues that I was trying to teach in system engineering with a story that made sense to people who were working in that field. So I like to tell stories. So anyway, after Magnolia, which was very well received, because I took a shot on what heaven might be like.
All right.
No one really could argue with me because no one's really coming back that, well, Tom, you're wrong here. There's no wine in heaven. Okay.
Right.
I think there's going to be wine first. Anyway, so I went for a little while, and I said, there's still something I want to say, tell a story. And so The Stream kind of, what are people looking for? What are they looking for? And I think most people are looking for peace. What the heck is peace, right? Peace of mind, peace and quiet. I think peace is different for everybody, but I think it's something that everyone wants. And so that was the premise. Uh, and so I started thinking, okay, you know, where am I going to start this? And I always like the idea of a grandfather giving advice to a grandson. So many ways we can get advice out there. Chat GPT,
Mm.
Google, but nothing like a wise grandfather talking to the grandson. So that was the premise. But what I decided to do was have it around this stream that this boy Benito from the Philippines, he has a dream, and it's not just that he's in this stream. He's in this. He feels such an immense peace while he's in this dream or in this stream. But then he wakes up. It's a dream. And he tells his grandfather about it, who actually had the same dream when he was young. And so he takes over and kind of guides the grandson to find the real stream. And so that's the premise. He's searching. He's
Hmm.
searching for the stream, which in reality, he's searching for peace. That's how I got started on this.
Did you have a similar relationship with your own grandfather?
I wish I did. My grandfather prob- probably offered. He didn't speak much English, first of all, but he was a wise man, I would say. He always dressed nice. He's living in Camden, and he always had a suit and tie on. He had a little men's club he would go to, but I viewed him as wise, but I think I was too young to uh, understand that wisdom at the time. But so I can't say that I had a wise guy, but I actually did have my Mary Ellen, my wife, from an Irish background. Her grandfather and I became very close.
Hmm.
He spoke with a very deep brogue, an Irish brogue, and I used to do the magic tricks for him, and he loved that. So, oh, Tommy boy, give me some more magic. Tell me more magic, and I would do some magic for him. But and then he was a prankster, but he was very wise. That guy. Yeah.
That's cool. If you had to choose, what if you had to choose, what would you say is the single most important idea that you could share from the book? What's the value that somebody's going to walk away with? I know you talked about peace and everything, but what else is behind it that you're trying to get across as a message?
Well, I also realized that not people don't read a lot today. They don't
Yeah.
really pick up a giant novel and read it. So I wanted to try to grab them in some way. So what I did in this book was I had another person, Bob, who is in a sense reading the book. And he thinks it's a book that was given to him by a psychologist who's going to deal with this retirement that he's not ready for. And so he's reading about this boy Benito. And as Benito is searching for his stream, he finds five keys. Okay, five keys.
Hmm.
And as Bob's reading this, he's like, this book is like, is this really the book my psychiatrist wanted me to read? My psychologist wanted me to read, and so he ends up on a similar search, but not for a stream, but for peace. And in the midst of this, he has a dream that he's in a stream. And so now the reader, which is the third dimension of this book, first of all, he's reading about Benita, who, who they can relate to a little bit. But the reader can certainly relate to Bob, who is looking for peace.
Mm.
And then so the reader then becomes the third dimension. Hopefully, to answer your question now, is that the reader can find certain keys that will bring them to peace. For example, one key is forgiveness. When we don't forgive someone, we build a blockage. And whatever reason we don't forgive, it could be justified, but nonetheless, there's a blockage. And that's one blockage to peace. And so one of the keys, and I go into a little bit more about it, but one of the keys they find is forgiveness. And so, yeah, I hope that if anyone, and I have people I know that carrying around heaviness over some incident that happened in their life, maybe with their family or their friends, and it's usually a stupid thing. I
Mm.
had a friend that forgot to invite a friend of his to dinner. They haven't talked for 15 years. Can you imagine that?
Wow.
Over not being invited to dinner. I'm simplifying it considerably, but uh, it's often something not real, serious that happens like that. So from the standpoint of my goal, and as all these books I do are just my way of continuing preaching, if you will. But and I don't make any money from these books, but it's my goal then that someone, my greatest accolade is someone saying, "Man, I enjoyed your book. I got a lot out of it." And
Yep.
that happened with the Deacon. It happened with Magnolia, and so I wanted to continue with this one. So that's really the reason I wrote these books. Hopefully, someone can find their keys. Now, maybe it's not the same five keys that Benito and Bob found, but there could be other keys that open the door to a kind of a peace, if you will.
When
With
you
with peace, with peace, it's like a package, right? You open up peace. What is peace, right? Uh, I believe it's a package that contains joy, contains wisdom, and most of all contains love. And so I think those three things come with peace.
when you talk about forgiveness, a lot of times there's people have a disagreement about some particular thing, and then that's where the falling apart occurs. And then the difficult part is how do you bring them back together again so that they can have some kind of resolution or quote forgiveness? And it has to be, it has to come from both parties, don't you think? I mean, you can't have one person going and say, I'm sorry, and then the other person is like, well, that's not good enough.
Well, there's two parts to forgiveness, right? There's the act of forgiving, which comes from your heart.
Right.
And that, once you do that, now the other person can turn around and, you know, forgive, but it really doesn't matter. Because if you forgive from the heart, that's all that matters. Now, forgiving is a little different, right, than, making things all right.
Hmm.
Right? That takes some time. That takes some time to resolve. And, but the forgiveness part of it, before you say, I forgive you, you really have to think about, you know, how do you do that in a heartfelt manner, and as long as you do that, I suggest in the book that in Benito is they pray about it, right? How do I forgive that guy? Of course, Benito didn't want to forgive the guy that stole the soccer ball, um, and he's pretty pissed off about that. And the reader says, yeah, why would he forgive that kid? Kick his ass. But he comes to, through his grandfather's wisdom, that idea of forgiveness coming from the heart is that release. Now, that's not to say that they're going to be best friends after that. They
Right.
may still not talk for a while, but the fact that you've forgiven from the heart is the key to getting rid of that blockage.
So basically, you can forgive, and you can be good within yourself, but it may not. The other person may not be as forgiving. Right.
That's correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah. You can only control yourself. You can only
right.
control your own mind.
Yep.
I have to tell you, I thought you hit this one out of the ballpark because I worked over in the Philippines a few times, and the people, probably the most Christian people I've ever met, and they don't have much. it's a poor community. I mean, we had people working for us, and we worked nighttime. We used to go to work at 5 o'clock and come home 6 the next morning because the time difference. And I found out the lady was a nurse. She says, "Oh, you pay better than as a here than you would if I was a nurse. I get $26 a day here. I don't get that being a nurse in the Philippines." I was
Wow.
shocked, but
Yeah.
the family unit was so strong over there. I had the occasion to visit a couple different families who supported our organization. They were just, as soon as I started reading, I was fascinated. It was really good. I enjoyed it.
I appreciate. I think the Filipinos have a relationship in their family the way I think as a boy some of the Italian families were, and probably some of the other nationalities too. Certainly the Mexicans and Spanish, they're very close knit. But
Yep.
the old
Yep.
Italian, all the cousins were together. Parents didn't have to tell you 5 times to take the trash out, right? My dad just had to give me a look, and I said, "Oh,
Yeah, I had that look.
Sure.
you know,
I'll spend.
Philippines."
That's that. Yeah, I remember that one. Yep. Well, you talk about talk about the Italians, and I grew up with my father was born in Italy. My grandfather came here to America, obviously as an immigrant, and he had quite an interesting journey. I mean, he basically hitchhiked from Calabria across Europe, got onto a boat. Just he and his best friend he met along the way. They became best friends for life. Got on a boat together. They just snuck in somehow and wound up in Cuba. And then from Cuba, they got on a boat ride to the United States, and that's how they came in illegally, and eventually became legal a couple of years later. And once my grandfather was legal, and they wound up in Brooklyn, New York. Then my grandmother and my father came over in right before the World War II, right in 1939, before war broke out. And at that point, my father was 11 years old. So a lot of closeness, a lot as you described with the Philippines. The Italians are, like you said, the Italians are the same way. Family is everything. The stories are amazing, especially if you're someone in the family is an immigrant. You listen to the struggle that they had to get here, because this was considered and is still, in my opinion, the greatest country in the world, and everybody wants to be here. And that could take us to a different topic, which we don't want to get into, but the whole issue about the border and all that crap.
Yes.
But
Because you'll have ice at your back door tonight.
exactly.
You're not really American. You're Italian.
You're Italian. Get the
I have
hell
to
out
tell
of here.
you, we were walking around Manila one morning because we get out of work at 6 o'clock. We had breakfast. We started taking a walk with 3 other people. We walked into a souvenir store, and the owner said, "We're not opened officially for 10 more minutes." We said, "Okay, we'll come back." No, no, no. Please join us for prayer. And all the employees of the store and 3 guys from AT&T, we stood there praying for the opening day. That was so impressive to me.
Yeah.
The people over there were so. This is such a great book, and it really reflects the Filipino people.
Yeah. Did a good job on
I
that.
had a
Yeah.
lot of go-tos that I could, for example, grandfather. What do you call grandfather in Filipino? And it's Lola, right? Lolo is the grandfather. Lola would be the grandmother. So
Right.
I kind of infiltrated certain words and backgrounds as far as what's it look like over there, like the way the homes are. I didn't do that much research, but enough to kind of grasp. And I had people that I knew from the church that I could go to. In fact, one deacon friend of mine who was ordained with me, Andy, he's from the Philippines, so he was a resource. Maria, who plays the piano, Our Lady of Guadalupe, she was a resource. I had a lot of people to go to on that. Just plus my own experience, as you've seen, Rich, or as you experienced. Uh, but yeah, so it was all good.
So we were talking about this earlier. If people want to get the book, where can they get it? Because I know you've got an issue right now with Amazon.
Yeah. The For whatever reason, I mean, all my books can be found on my website, okay, um, and thomasfargnoli.com. And in there, I have links to go to Amazon or wherever to get the book. Now,
Okay.
for the stream, for somebody put some reviews out there that apparently they didn't buy the book or something. I can't get to the bottom of it, but Amazon stripped it from their shelves. So that's why this book is not on Amazon, but you can find it on Barnes and Noble and most of the other book sites. And it's a small book, as you can see. I don't think I'm into the big ones. There's the keys, right?
Oh yeah, yeah.
So
That was a great read. Really, really enjoyed it. Now, what's your next project, and when is that going to come out?
yeah. So I had this thought about first of all, like I said before, people aren't into the big thick books anymore. I mean, a lot of people are, but I'm thinking of a book of short stories. Um, so each story is just a little different, and my wife Dorothy and I are going to collaborate on this. So we're going to do this together.
Oh, nice.
All I've done so far is I picked out a cover. So and it's about I see all these. I love to see light coming through like blinds, and so the book is just going to be called "Open the Blinds."
Okay.
And so can you imagine this chair and little coffee cup, tea, whatever, and some fruit maybe, and the light coming through, and then these stories are pretty much that hey, there's a lot going on in life. Just open the blinds and let the light in, and
Cool.
so stories of light. I think again very lightweight type of thing.
So when the book is published, we'll check to see if you and Dorothy are still married after you're writing together.
She didn't want to do it. She says, "No, I'm not the writer. You're the writer." But she helps me so much as it is with the write. She says, "No, this would be great. Plus, you have a lot to tell."
It's a good idea. Yeah.
And then we started
So,
kidding around about
so from the time you decided you wanted to write the stream, how much time? I mean, you came up with the idea, then you wrote the book, published. What type of time frame were you looking at?
it. Yeah, it's a small book. It was probably a little about a year and a half, maybe total
Wow.
time from the time.
Okay.
I'll start jotting notes down, so I'll go into my notes on my iPad or whatever, and if I read something that it strikes me, or course of the day, I'll write down thought, and then I try to categorize them under different thoughts, and then I would put together the story, and some of it doesn't come to me until I'm halfway through it. Like I started out with Benito, and I says, I want to bring the reader in. So then Bob came into the picture. Tossed that by Dorothy. And she said, really? I don't know. I don't like that. But then we start manipulating it. Like I said, she has her influence on me. And then, so I thought this time would be good to get us together. So, I think this book, might take a while. I also put out a little thing to Facebook of people who wanted to share their stories about in any of those topics. Maybe what were some of your closest moments where you felt God's presence, for example. And one friend of mine, Walt Markowitz, he's a good friend. He lives from somewhere. I think he went to Lady Grace. But anyway, he responded with two or three stories. So I'm hoping to collect some stories too, not just my writing, into this next book.
I'll have to
So
give
if
that some
anyone
thought.
has that they would like to share, I may change the names and maybe add a little bit of flair to them. In some cases, sometimes I may have to take away some flair. But in any case, send them to me. You get my email on my website, but or just Tom-Magic at Comcast. But send me your stories. I would love to.
So the website is tomfargnoli.com, and we'll send folks to that website.
And at the end of the website, you can email me. There's a way to email me from
Cool.
Okay.
Great. Well, we wish you lots of success with this book. They've all been great.
Very good.
Yeah, they're fun to read, and like you said, there's always a great message with each of your books. So we've enjoyed it, and we encourage our listeners to go out and buy the book. The money goes to a charity. Is that right, Tom?
Yeah, this one I haven't picked the charity out yet. It's just so new. Like the first one, of course, went to suicide awareness, and then I went to the Magnolia Fire Hall, was one of the
Right.
books, and then to a scholastic or a scholarship fund, Sterling, as it turned out. So I'm open for this fourth one actually, that where to donate it to. So
Cool.
I'm not sure yet. It'll come. It'll come to me.
All right.
He was cutting. He said scholarship fund for Paul Six.
That Paul Six. There you go. Hey, I'm open for that. Give me a good.
Or Sterling, whatever.
Yeah, Sterling.
I got Sterling. I already got the scholarship fund. And Mr. Stout was a great teacher. We had at Sterling, and everyone loved him. He's a coach, football coach. And he was my Spanish teacher. And so
cool.
when he passed away, we continue to have a Stout reunion type of thing. So it goes to the Stout scholarship fund.
Cool.
But yeah, I'm open.
Great.
It's not like we're going to sell 1 million books, but whatever.
Well, we're doing our best to get your copy sold. So hopefully this one will be a good one. Thanks again, Tom. Always a pleasure having you on. Look forward to the next one.
Thank you.
Take care.
Take care.
This was a PVI 71 production.